Eli Hart was born on December 15th, 2015 in Mound, Minnesota. His family says about him that his smile and laugh would always light up the room. He was a happy, silly, and caring young boy. He didn't have a mean bone in his body. He also loved playing with Matchbox cars, and he wanted to be a firefighter when he grew up. Eli was born with a rare genetic disorder. It's called Townes-Brocks syndrome. This can cause abnormalities in the organs. He, however, was a pretty active and healthy little boy besides that. He did have to wear hearing aids, and he also needed to follow up with doctors on a regular basis to make sure that his condition wasn't worsening. Eli's parents were Julissa Thaler and Tori Hart. They both met in 2013 when they were 19 years old. Now, Julissa had experienced mental health problems since she was only 13 years old. Tori said Julissa was fine. That's until she got pregnant in 2015 with Eli, and she stopped taking her medication and never went back on them. Needless to say, their relationship started to deteriorate, and Tori ended up moving out of the home that they shared in 2016. When he did, Julissa filed a domestic abuse complaint against him, and this was the second one. She had already done so previously while he lived there. Julissa told police that Tori hurt her during an argument and had threatened to shoot her with a shotgun. There were no charges filed by police, though, because there was insufficient evidence that any of this had happened. After Tori and Julissa broke up, Julissa moved in with her grandmother, Linda Genrich. Linda said she at first believed all of Julissa's stories about Tori abusing her. But then she later found that Julissa lied about a lot of things, and she was super manipulative. Another time, Julissa had told police that Tori had threatened to kill her if she ever left him. She withdrew that complaint 3 days later, though. She told police that because of her ongoing mental health issues, she would often blame Tori for things that he never did. So Julissa was troubled from early on in her life. She started drinking when she was only 13 years old. She also started to abuse opiates at the age of 16, as well as sedatives at the age of 20. She was repeatedly hospitalized and sent in for treatments. She was diagnosed with at least 2 personality disorders. And when she was only 21, she said that she used LSD on a daily basis. So in 2015, the same year that Eli was born, Child Protection got their first report about Julissa. She was suspected of exposing Eli to drugs even before she gave birth to him. Now in Minnesota, unwed fathers have no custodial rights. So Julissa had full custody of Eli, even though she now had a case open with Child Protective Services. Tori did not. She did. But she gets to keep full custody because she's the mom, and that's all that Minnesota cares about, I guess. Tori was able to visit Eli. That's up until 2019. Julissa decided to show up at the wedding of Tori's sister, completely uninvited. She then also claimed that Tori put a nail bomb in her car and she called the police. And this is funny. All the police found was a water bottle full of nails. I guess that's Julissa trying to put together something that looks like it could be a nail bomb. Even though Tori lived hours away, Julissa was still able to somehow use this report to get a restraining order against him. Poor guy had nothing to do with it. She took a bottle of water, threw nails in it, put it in her car, called the police, blamed him, and he gets punished? Holy shit. So Tori couldn't contact her, which means she was also keeping Eli from him. No charges were filed because, like I said, Tori very clearly lived 2 hours away and had nothing to do with it. However, a judge ordered him to stay away from Julissa for 2 years. So in 2021, Eli was removed from Julissa's care again, but he was put into foster care this time. Why the courts didn't put Eli with his father, you ask? Well, it's because Julissa kept making allegations against him of abuse. She wrote a letter to one of the judges protesting that she was an amazing parent who always put her son first. In 2020, Julissa moved to Farmington, Minnesota, where she continued to have many mental breakdowns throughout 2020 and 2021 and beyond. One time she left Eli naked in the house, surrounded by a ton of broken eggs that had been smeared everywhere, and the upstairs bathroom was flooding. Not a single clue what was going on in that house. The house was also extremely cluttered and full of rotting garbage. Only a few months after this incident, she had voices in her head telling her to kill herself. Another time that social workers came to visit Eli, he was home alone with cuts, matted hair, and without his hearing aids. So, in January of 2021, as I said, Eli got placed into foster care, which luckily moved him in with family. It was Julissa's cousin, Steven Kronberg, and his wife, Nikita, and they loved the little boy. They said he was the sweetest thing. So in order to get Eli back, Julissa had some things that she needed to get in order and some requirements that she had to fulfill. It was simple. She needed to treat and stabilize her mental health. She needed to make sure she could meet Eli's medical needs. And she needed to maintain clean and stable housing, as well as a steady job. She also needed to remain drug-free and submit to random drug tests. Poor Tori was trying to get custody of Eli, and he had even gone through parenting and psychological evaluations and drug tests, none of which showed any concerns. Meanwhile, Julissa did absolutely nothing to improve her situation. Over the next 11 months, she would deny any wrongdoing, and she fixated once again on the fact that Tori wanted to hurt her. Not the other way around. Tori wanted to hurt her. He just wanted his son. He doesn't care what happens to you. Julissa often would ignore instructions from the social workers, lie to them, and beg them to give her Eli back. Julissa had supervised visits with Eli, and at one of these supervised visits, she told him that she's living off Mountain Dew and cigarettes, and that she just couldn't function and she didn't know what to do. She was telling this to her young son. He doesn't need to know any of that. He doesn't need to be a part of that. He has no idea what you're talking about, and it makes him feel unstable in a home with you. The police had been visiting Julissa's home as often as 2 times a week. Ambulances were also requested to her address several times after she had fainted or complained of other health problems, I assume to avoid getting into trouble. The police also showed up a few times because the neighbors had complained of banging and screaming coming from Julissa's apartment. Eli could tell there was something going on with his mom. He was very wary of Julissa. During the supervised visits, he would hide behind furniture and refuse to talk to her. After their visits were done, he would often have bathroom accidents. Julissa was also either missing or tampering with the drug test that she was instructed to get. A child protection worker by the name of Beth Denner took over the case in July of 2021. By this point, Julissa had stopped going to her therapy as well. She had also repeatedly moved to 4 different homes in only 4 months. Caseworkers were suspecting that she was probably homeless at that point. Then in November, she was kicked out of her drug testing because she was being so disruptive. She still continued to accuse Tori of things as well. However, her caseworker, Beth, knew that she had often lied about this exact same thing, so she didn't believe Julissa. Caseworkers could tell as well that this was made up because Eli loved his father when he got visitation. They had a strong bond, and Eli was a much happier child after he got to see his father. Sometimes at these supervised visits, Julissa would also sit for long periods of time just staring off into space and ignoring Eli. So when children are put into foster care in the state of Minnesota, there's a ticking clock that comes with it. The children must be reunited with their caregivers within 1 year or be on track to be placed in a permanent home. By November of 2021, the child protection worker Beth still had some concerns, but she said that she felt like Julissa was meeting some of her plan. She said that Julissa had picked up her son on time for the unsupervised visits. She also made it to Eli's therapy appointments, and she had dropped him back off at his foster parents' house on time. And Julissa had also restarted her drug testing. So even though Beth had some concerns, she seemed to think that Julissa was doing good, because she made it on time to a few appointments and went to the drug test that she was sabotaging anyways. So the judge ruled that Eli was to return to Julissa on a trial home visit. He would live with her, but the county would still have legal custody so they could take him away at any point, and should have. That decision alarmed his foster family. Uncle Steven said to Child Protective Services, "So we're just going to forget all the bad things that she's done within the last 10 months? And I agree. Why would you? Beth said that at this point, she had told Julissa that if things didn't go well with the trial home visit, they would place Eli with Tori and file for a transfer of custody. According to the state statute, a trial home visit may end in order to protect the child's health, safety, and welfare. It does not need to rise to a level of endangerment. The county decided to set the start date for this as December 22nd of 2021. This was so Eli wouldn't miss any school. Until then, he had occasional overnights at Julissa's house. Though one night that Julissa brought him back to his foster parents, she came flying around the corner in her car going 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, and then Eli got out of the car sobbing. So the reason why Eli was taken out of Julissa's care in the first place was because of a decline in her mental health. I'm going to go ahead and say that her mental health has not gotten any better. So why are we going forward with giving Eli back to her? On another night in December, Julissa and one of her friends decided to park outside the house of Steven and Nikita, Eli's guardians. They sat there with binoculars in hand and watched the house the entire night. I'm not sure what they were looking for. Absolutely no idea. Nikita actually got up early for work that morning and saw them sitting out there and called the police. Nikita then emailed the Child Protective Service agent, Beth, repeatedly saying that she was worried about her family's safety and well-being because now Julissa was sitting outside their house for hours on end. Instead of worrying about this behavior, Beth decided to email Eli's school to let them know that Eli was actually going to be moving in with his mom a few days sooner. How does that make sense to any grown adult? Julissa is now getting rewarded for the crazy things she's doing. They're rewarding this behavior. And of course, the trial home visit started off rocky. The very first day that Eli was back with Julissa, Child Protection was warned by Eli's school that Julissa was driving recklessly when she both picked up and dropped off Eli at school. Eli also had a court-appointed guardian who was supposed to look out for his well-being. And on December 30th, she recommended that Eli be taken back from Julissa. She said in an email to Beth, "I feel like we need to stop the trial home visit, as she doesn't appear stable to me, and she is putting Eli at risk." Sherry also said that Julissa had been calling her to try to get the visitations with Eli's father canceled. When she couldn't cancel the visitations, she decided to take out an order of protection against Tori instead. And of course, she used many of the same false accusations again, saying that he was hurting her. The same day that Julissa filed that order of protection, Beth and her had a video call. When Beth told her that the county had no worries about Tori, Julissa got irate, and Beth ended up needing to hang up on her. Many times when Eli was picked up or dropped off at Julissa's house for his visits with his father, she would quickly pull him in or push him out and slam the door in the social worker's face because she clearly did not want them to see what the inside of her house looked like. It was probably an absolute mess. And by mid-January, Julissa had missed so many required parenting classes that she was actually kicked out. However, she still retained custody. So unfortunately, nothing came of what Sherry recommended they do, which was take Eli out of Julissa's home. It just got ignored, I guess. Nothing happened. He remained there still. Also in January, Julissa lied to Child Protective Services about her mental health program. She said that she had graduated and no longer needed the services. Wow, that was fast. A few days later, the program director told Child Protective Services that this was not true. Speaking of not true things, Julissa was also not being truthful with her therapists and kept switching therapists so that nobody would know her history. She could keep bouncing around. Despite all of this, the trial home visit still continued. To Child Protective Services, there was no indication that Eli was unsafe physically in Julissa's care. So that's why they decided it was okay for him to stay. Don't worry about him being neglected or mentally abused. No, that stuff is okay. She can get away with that as long as she's not hurting him. So you're going to wait until she does hurt him to take him out of the home? Why would you wait until a child got hurt? She's showing so many signs of being crazy. In late January, beginning of February, Beth decided that Julissa could come off of drug testing because she tested clean for 2 months. But keep in mind, she had abused drugs for 10 years now, so 2 months, she could definitely still slip up again. Around the same time, Eli's behavior had started to change as well. At school, the teachers started to report that Eli was being aggressive and punching other students. A teacher also wrote to Child Protective Services saying that she had spoken to some kids on the playground and asked them about times someone had been mean to them. Eli told the teacher that his mom had been mean to him and she often pushed him. But when the teacher sent this email, do you know what Beth's response was? You're not going to like it. I appreciate the update, and it is interesting that he would make that statement. It's not something that CPS would take as a maltreatment report. However, I do want you to continue documenting everything. A couple weeks later, Eli's therapist also emailed Beth. In this email, she said that there was a time that Eli had hidden in a cabinet after his mother started to get confrontational with the therapist. Then in early March, there was another report from Eli's school. Eli had told his teachers that his mom had grabbed his wrist and squeezed it really hard. But Child Protective Services didn't do anything about any of these. So she was trying to get custody back of Eli. You think she would be on her best behavior. But instead, Julissa was emailing Beth saying that Eli will not be seeing Tori once she gets custody back. Nothing's changed. Nothing's improved. Except maybe she went drug-free for 2 months. Or bought fake piss. I don't know. Nothing else has changed. So why did Eli's custody change then? Great question, Cassie. In early March, Tori filed for custody of his son in the Hennepin County Family Court. Julissa responded to this by filing yet another order of protection against him. Again, with many false accusations. In the protection order, Julissa cited that Tori would tell Eli that he would make mommy disappear if he ever got custody. And of course, she blamed Tori for Eli's behavioral problems at school. These claims were rejected by the court. However, just the filing of it meant that Tori could no longer receive public assistance on his custody case. Now, Beth had admitted that Julissa was very mentally ill. But in another email to a coworker, Beth said, the kid has been going to school. She cooperated with a visit with Dad last week. The kiddo is still going to therapy. That's basically what she's required to do at this point. No, it's not. She was good on a visit with his dad once. This basically is only like half of the requirements, if that. What do you mean, basically? I wouldn't think basically would be good enough for you to get custody, but there was a hearing on March 30th to see if they could close out the case yet. Basically give Julissa back custody and be done with the situation. At that hearing, a DCF worker expressed concern that Eli was not safe in his mother's care. Beth, on the other hand, was urging the judge to go ahead and close it. The judge decided to not close it and keep it open, and there would be another court hearing in May. However, keeping this child protection case open was both a good thing and a bad thing. Julissa didn't have permanent custody back yet. They could still take him at any time. However, Tori, who was trying to get custody of Eli, was unable to do so until the child protection case was closed out. In early May, Beth filed another report with the court. Although they listed ongoing concerns regarding Eli's mental and emotional well-being, she also cited that Tori's stalled attempts to gain custody was another reason to close the case. I'm not sure I understand the reasoning there. So pretty much by then, Beth wanted nothing to do with Julissa. Before the next custody hearing in May, she was supposed to have one final visit with Julissa and Eli. But Julissa decided to cancel it, and Beth never rescheduled. Julissa was also supposed to have restarted her parenting classes, but Beth never checked to see if that was the case. Beth didn't even want to pick up Eli anymore from his mother to bring for the visits to his father, because Julissa would always get so angry. She just didn't want to deal with it. So she sent somebody else from Child Protective Services to go pick up Eli. And her name was Amy Horn. When Amy got there, she said that Eli had dark circles all around his eyes, and he looked like he hadn't showered in days. Eli also told her that he and his mother drove around in the car all night long. Amy also met Julissa at a McDonald's instead of at her house, which made her concerned that maybe Julissa was homeless again. But since Beth had already filed reports with the court, she was, I guess, too lazy to go ahead and update them with all this new information. The judge accepted Child Protective Services' recommendation to close the case, and Eli's case was closed out on May 10th. Julissa now had full custody of Eli. Now, just 10 days after the child protective case had been closed, and exactly 5 months since Eli had started his trial home visit, police stopped Julissa as she was driving without a tire on the front driver's side. It was just the rim. When police stopped her, she looked very disheveled, and they noticed that she had blood on her hands, face, clothing, and hair. There was also a lot of blood visible in the back of the car. And when the police asked her why she was covered in all this blood, she said because she had to take out a tampon. So did you just fling it around the entire car? Gross. The officers also noticed that there was a meat-like substance in the car, and they asked her about it. She said that she had just gotten some deer meat from a butcher, but she couldn't remember which one, even though she had just bought it. The police also noticed that the back window of her car was shot out. When they asked her what happened there, she said, "Oh, some kids just used a BB gun and shot out my window." For some reason or another, the police did not detain her at this point. She was driving very close to her apartment, so they let her walk back home, and they were going to wait there with the car until it had gotten towed. Well, in the meantime, the police decided to check out the trunk to make sure there was nothing of hers in there. And when they did, they found something absolutely horrendous.
There's what?
There's blood all over the car.
I have a broken windshield and I'm missing a tire because some kids were shooting at my car. I had some.
What looks like blood in there?
It's not blood, it's deer meat. I had a big bag of, there's a farm around here that does deer meat and hamburgers. So.
Shotgun shells all over the side.
Yeah. Holy shit. We got a body.
Yeah.
All right, let's cover it.
Yep.
It was Eli's body, riddled with gunshot wounds. Sometime in the early morning hours of May 20th, 2022, Julissa Thaler had pointed a shotgun at her 6-year-old son and repeatedly fired while he was strapped helplessly in his car seat. She then took his mangled body and put it into the trunk of her car and drove around. As soon as they found this, the police called for backup and went to Julissa's apartment to find her. She wasn't there. However, the washing machine was running and the clothes that she had just been wearing had been thrown into there. The officers soon located her, however, trying to sneak out the back, and were able to arrest her. They also observed that she had what looked like chunks of human flesh in her hair. She was brought in and charged with second-degree murder. At that point, the investigators started talking to witnesses, and they were also able to track where Julissa's car had come from because of all the damage that the rim had caused on the road as it dragged. In various dumpsters, they found some human remains, a child's car seat damaged by bullets, and a backpack with Eli's homework still in it. The results of the autopsy confirmed that Eli had been shot as many as 9 times. Now, during Julissa's trial, a gun shop owner took the stand and testified that Julissa had come in and bought 40 shotgun rounds, ammunition to blow the biggest hole in something. A few days prior, Julissa had also bought a shotgun, and she had gone to the shooting range to try it out. She told her boyfriend at the time that she just wanted it for protection, and that was it. Prosecutors also found out that Julissa had been researching life insurance policies for Eli, and she had actually submitted an application for a $400,000 life insurance policy for the child. It had never gone through before any of this, though. She had also Googled things such as, how much blood can a 6-year-old lose? How to keep child away from other parent? How to fake being home to the cops? Qualifying accidental deaths? And how much does life insurance pay for a dead child? The only strategy that the defense could come up with was, if she had done it, why wouldn't she have concealed her identity? Mental health issues. That's why. Past January was when Julissa's trial was held. Julissa's ex-boyfriend, though, testified at her trial. He had been dating her at the time of the incident. His name was Robert, and him and Julissa had known each other since high school. They, however, hadn't reconnected until 2022 to use drugs together. So, see, she wasn't staying clean after she was taking off those drug tests she was using again, or she was using fake pee. He was originally arrested along with Julissa in connection with Eli's death. However, he was very shortly after released, as all the evidence was against Julissa. Robert said that he had gone with Julissa to pick up 6-year-old Eli from school the day before. He said that when they got home, they had eaten pizza and played with some kittens that Julissa had at the apartment. And they were getting ready to play the Xbox when things all of a sudden took a turn. Robert was very emotional and struggling to give out this information at the trial. He said that it was 11 p.m. on a school night and Eli was still up. As they were playing with the kittens, Eli started to get a bit rowdy, and Julissa got angry about this, so she started hitting him, and Eli started hitting her back. They were both fighting each other. Julissa was fighting a 6-year-old. So Julissa put the shotgun in the car and then came back up to the bedroom where he was laying down. She then grabbed Eli and just went downstairs. Robert didn't think anything of it and he fell asleep. He then woke up the next morning between 8 and 8:30. At that point, Julissa had returned home. Robert asked her where she had been, to which she simply replied, "I had to go do something." Robert assumed that Eli was at school. He said that at that time, Julissa had mentioned something about the police, and he asked her what she was talking about. They eventually left the apartment, and as the police were coming towards her, she still wouldn't tell Robert what was going on. Robert claims that he had gone with Julissa when she bought the shotgun, as well as to the shooting range. But like I said, she had just told him she only wanted it for protection, and he had no reason to not believe her at that point. I am curious why Robert decided to stay there when Julissa started hitting Eli, and or why he didn't do anything about it, but Robert had also told police previously that he thought there was no way Julissa could ever hurt Eli because she was a sweet person. She's very cunning and manipulative is what she is. At Julissa's trial, the family members got to go up and read their victim impact statements. Eli Hart said, "He just really liked being social, talking, and playing with others. He was always really happy, outgoing, and always full of energy. Always. Eli loved to blow bubbles, go fishing, swing on the swings at the park, and eating meatballs at Carbone's. He was everything to me. He completed my life. He just loved spending time with me. And I loved spending time with him." Nikita Kronberg, Eli's former foster mother, also stood up and told everyone just how much Eli had meant to her. And a jury ended up convicting her of first and second-degree murder. When Julissa was asked if she wanted to address the court,
Go ahead. I'm innocent. You all, you're garbage. Absolutely, Your Honor.
interesting coming from a heaping, steaming, smelly-ass pile of garbage herself. Eli Hart also filed a wrongful death suit against the Dakota County Child Protective Services employees, the ones who had awarded Julissa custody of Eli. That case is scheduled for trial in federal court in 2024. In Tori's wrongful death lawsuit, he laid out tons of disturbing incidents involving Julissa's care of Eli. For example, in February of 2021, a social worker noted bizarre behavior. The lawsuit says that the mother showed cat feces to Eli on the video call. And then the video became increasingly chaotic as Julissa attempted to cook chili while grabbing her cat by the neck and muttering to herself. A February 2022 report says that often Eli arrived to school without his hearing aids, and also told teachers several times that he had not slept the night before. Also, during Eli's last Christmas, he was with Julissa, and Tori noticed on a FaceTime call that was December 27th that Eli had not been changed out of his pajamas that he was wearing on December 23rd. He also told his dad that Santa didn't come to his house that year. Even Julissa's own father, George Thaler, spoke at a November 2021 court hearing, warning the judge to not return Eli to Julissa's care. He said, "I'm very, very, very concerned for Eli. I'm terrified about Julissa. She's got many arrests for assault and dangerous behavior. and she's put Eli in dangerous situations. So the lawsuit claims that even though Julissa was the one to pull the trigger, the failures of the Dakota County Child Protective Services, and, I quote, a proximate cause of Eli's death. After Julissa received her sentence and court was over, the family decided to focus on something positive, such as fundraising to build a playground in Eli Hart's memory. This is another huge failure of Child Protective Services. All the warning signs were there and they were all ignored.
Now, a year later, communities around Mound, where Eli went to school, and in western Wisconsin, where his father lives, are turning their grief into action. Adam Duxter shows us their plan to ensure Eli Hart is always remembered.
We thought we had a whole lifetime with Eli ahead of us. And in one night, it was gone.
For Josie Josephson and her husband, Tori Hart, memories of Eli are still right there.
Every single day.
Every day.
Every day, all day long. There's not a day we don't. There's not a day we don't talk about him.
Even while sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dream about him.
It's difficult to believe
Life doesn't slow down when something like this happens.
it's already been a year.
Everyone else's life that doesn't know you or passes you on the street, their life still keeps going. You kind of feel like you're lost. Like you are broken and in pieces and you're trying to find those pieces and put them back together, and everyone's still just rushing by you on their day-to-day life.
But this story
We're just kind of in awe of what they've done.
is just as much about the people who didn't pass by,
I couldn't stop myself from doing something.
but stopped to help.
I just had to do something. I still feel that way when I think about it.
We needed an outlet to say we're doing something proactive, we're going to make a change.
Strangers prior to Eli's death, Tiffany Beitler and Ben Coliani, are now part of a small group, founders of the Eli Hart Foundation. In less than a year, they've registered as a nonprofit and have plans to take this park in Mound and transform it into one Eli would have loved.
Hopefully those kids that knew Eli will be able to heal at that park. And hopefully it will help us heal.
If they can raise another $120,000 by the end of July, this park will be ready by the end of October.
It's unbelievable.
It's hope.
There's so many thank yous that we want to say. And thank you's just not enough.
In a time where hope and memories are everything.
You lose your child and you don't want them forgotten. And it's really nice to know that he won't be.
It wasn't just one time that Julissa messed up. It was over and over and over, and she kept getting away with it. It's especially upsetting knowing that Tori, his father, was a loving and caring parent who Eli wanted to be with, and Tori wanted to be with him. But unfortunately, the law just wouldn't allow it. Phoenix Victoria Hope Sinclair was born on April 23, 2000, in Winnipeg, Canada, to her mother, Samantha Kamach, and her father, Steve Sinclair. She loved to play guitar, read, draw, and watch movies. Phoenix's parents were both very young when she was born. Her mother, Samantha, was only 18, and her father, Steven, only 19. And neither one of them had come from a good upbringing. They had both been taken away from their parents when they were younger, then placed into foster care until the time that they aged out. Once that happened, both Samantha and Steve struggled since they didn't graduate high school and neither had a job. Therefore, they were relying on state assistance, and both were said to have substance abuse problems as well. Now, Samantha had gotten pregnant for the first time when she was still in the system herself, and only 16 years old. She'd been separated from her baby, who'd also then become a ward of the state. So when the mother became pregnant a second time, this time with Phoenix, Child Protective Services got involved in her life immediately. They wanted to ensure that the cycle of abuse that the parents had been subjected to did not continue with this child. Now, at the time that Phoenix was born, it came as a surprise to many. Samantha had kept the pregnancy a secret almost up until the time that she gave birth. Shortly before the little girl arrived, a social worker went out to Samantha and Steven's home to make sure that they were ready for their new arrival. However, she would find that they were not prepared at all. There was no crib, no toys, and no clothes for the new baby. Then, when Samantha was questioned about her first child, she said that the reason why he'd been taken away by social workers was because since she had been mistreated as a child, they were afraid she would do the same to him. She additionally confessed that she had gotten no prenatal care during her first or second pregnancy. This was because she was afraid of doctors, and she stated that she had seen way too many things on TV, especially about male doctors mistreating their patients. Samantha additionally told the caseworker that she was not emotionally prepared to have a baby. So it was decided that Phoenix would be taken into Child Protective Custody's care when she was born. However, when the worker showed up at the hospital to take the little girl, Samantha had changed her mind. She had decided that she wanted to keep Phoenix. But once the social worker told her that many parents who took their new baby home ended up deciding that they did indeed want social services intervention, Samantha and Steven decided to give up Phoenix as they had originally planned. The newborn was placed into emergency foster care, and her parents were still allowed to visit her. Surprisingly, they went every single week, too. Though Samantha refused to take a mental health evaluation, which was something that social services required if the parents wanted to regain custody. When Phoenix was 5 months old, she would be returned back to Samantha and Steven after they underwent training on how to deal with a baby. The mother had also finally agreed to get a psych evaluation done. But the doctor who spoke with Samantha had only been asked to see if the reason why she had such a flat affect towards her daughter was because she was struggling with depression. And he found that she was not, but rather the reason why she was like that was because it was part of her personality. She was naturally closed off. Then, about a year after Phoenix was born, in April of 2001, her parents would have another baby, a daughter named Echo. She was also allowed to remain in their custody. Not long after, in June of 2001, Samantha and Steven got into a domestic dispute, and police were called to the home. Samantha claimed that Steven had assaulted her, and this had occurred after he had found a hickey on her neck, and she admitted that she had been cheating on him with her ex-boyfriend, the father of her first son. But Steven's side of the story was that they had gotten into a verbal argument after he had found out that Samantha had taken their child tax credit and spent it all on alcohol. Drinking was something that she often did too, which left her out of control and left Steven fearing for the safety of their daughters. However, in the end, he was the one charged with assault, and for the next 2 days while he was in jail, the girls were with Samantha. And once Steven was released and he went to pick his daughters up, he claimed that Echo was dirty and smelled bad. Around this time, a social worker also noted that Steven was a good father who took care of his children and played with them. A month later, the couple officially separated and Steven began to care for Echo and Phoenix full-time. According to him, Samantha had just abandoned the family. Then sadly, on July 15th, baby Echo would pass away after Steven found her unresponsive in her crib. Her death was due to complications from pneumonia, and there was no foul play suspected. While Steven retained custody of Phoenix after this, he soon began leaving her with his friends, Kim Edwards and Rohan Stevenson, or with his sister, Jenny. In October of 2001, social workers decided to close out their case on Phoenix, even though at that point they had not seen her in a few months. They then remained out of her life for the next few years. That's until February of 2003, when she was brought to the hospital because there had been a piece of styrofoam stuck up her nose for a few months. She had been taken there by her father's friends, Kim and Rohan, and the doctor was afraid that Steven would not give her the required antibiotics. This prompted them to call CPS and report a possible case of neglect. However, nothing further would be done. Only a few months later, however, in June, social workers decided to remove Phoenix from her father's care. This was after they had found out that a day-long drinking party had happened at Steven's home, and the little girl had been present. So he had been instructed that he needed to receive alcohol counseling in order to get his daughter back. In the meantime, temporary guardianship of Phoenix was given over to Kim and Rohan. Just a few months later, even though the father's requirements had not been met, he regained custody of his daughter. And not long after, he began leaving her with his friends and relatives on a regular basis again. The following April of 2004, Samantha, who had not been in Phoenix's life for some time, decided to show up at Rohan's home, where the little girl was staying, and take her for a visit. According to the mother, who was also trying to regain custody of her daughter, she had changed her life and things had gotten much better. She additionally claimed that Steven was not letting her see Phoenix anymore. And she was worried because one of Steven's sisters, who was around the little girl on a regular basis, had been charged 7 years prior with manslaughter in relation to a child that was in her care. So apparently Rohan had called up Steven and asked him if it was okay if Phoenix went on a visit with her mother. And he said that it was, as long as she planned on bringing her back. But Samantha never did. Then, nearly 2 years later, in March of 2006, a 12-year-old little boy informed his mother that for the last 9 months, his father and stepmother had been pretending that the 5-year-old little girl was alive. But she wasn't, because he had actually seen his father beat her to death. The boy's mother then called authorities to give them this information. Now, Phoenix's mother, Samantha, was actually with a new man by this point. His name was Carl Wesley McKay. And he had a long history of DV. He had previously beaten an ex-girlfriend with the leg of a bathroom sink, broken someone's nose, and threatened another individual with a machete. His own 2 children had had Child Protective Services involved in their lives too. Meaning that his history was something that social workers should have been aware of. It was right in their system. Yet they had never bothered to look into this new man who was in Samantha's life. One whom she'd gone on to have 2 more children with, too. So it had been Carl's former common-law wife who'd contacted police after their son told her about Phoenix's murder. For months after Samantha had taken Phoenix from Rohan's care back in April of 2004, social workers claimed they had no idea where the mother and daughter were. It wasn't until Samantha came forward looking for financial assistance for the little girl that they regained contact with her. Also around this time, Phoenix's father, Steven, moved out of the province and to Ontario. At least twice in 2005, Child Services had received phone calls that Phoenix was being mistreated in her mother's care, and that Samantha was also smoking crack around her. The mother was additionally said to regularly ignore her daughter, who had recently started bedwetting and fondling herself. One of Samantha's friends even reported that there was a lock on the bedroom door, and behind it, she could hear Phoenix crying. But regardless of these reports, nothing was done again. Just 3 months before the little girl's death, social workers had been called out to Samantha's apartment to check on things. When they got there, she refused to let them in, claiming that she had a visitor. So the social worker had only seen her new baby and never laid eyes on Phoenix. The case was then closed out only a few days later. Over the course of Phoenix's entire life, there had been 27 different social workers who worked on her case. It had also been previously noted that the little girl would call any female figure in her life mom, showing that she had never really bonded with her own mother. From the very beginning of Phoenix's life, Samantha had been described as having a flat affect and indifference towards her daughter. The little girl's parents' lack of motivation and commitment was repeatedly noted. Yet time and time again, nothing was done. A worker would find no immediate need for concern, and the case would be closed. So once authorities had received the information from Carl's ex that he had killed Phoenix, they went to look for him and Samantha. When they found them, the couple tried to pass off another child as being Phoenix. That didn't work, however, and the pair was brought down to the police station for questioning. Samantha's story was that she and her boyfriend had returned back from Carl's father's house on June 11th, 2005. And when they did, they found the little girl lying in the basement unresponsive. Samantha said that she believed that she had choked on her own vomit, because before they had left the house, she was fine. The mother then admitted that the day before, her boyfriend Carl had slammed Phoenix's head into the floor, so maybe that was her cause of death. She insisted that when they had found that her daughter was not breathing, Carl had performed CPR on her. However, that didn't work. The little girl was gone, so they decided to wrap her body up in trash bags, then dispose of her. During this interrogation, Samantha also confessed that on occasion, she had hit Phoenix in the legs with a metal pipe or bar.
So I want you to talk to me about the morning
or that the day that you guys were at home when Phoenix died, before you went to Wes's dad's house?
She was okay. She was breathing.
Okay, and that's what you told me. But when I had asked you about what it is that you think killed her.
Yeah, when we came back, I said it didn't look like she choked on her puke. That's what they said. That looks like me, that she might have died from choking on her puke.
Right.
There was a puke spot there.
But then we talked about what happened down there.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm confused, is the time when you talked about the puke, but then you also talked about Phoenix being thrown across the floor, or thrown onto the floor, banging her head.
Yeah, that was the day before.
Okay, so that's where I'm confused about, as what day what thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
So
like, what do you mean? Like,
the day before she died. So we know she died on June 11th, right?
mm-hmm.
So on June 10th, what happened that day? What happened to her that day? Those things you were telling me about?
That's the day I was pushed her. She banged her on the floor.
When it was Carl's turn to be interrogated, he refused to admit to anything. But eventually, detectives got him to break down, and he claimed that he had tried to save Phoenix. At the same time, he admitted that her death was both his and Samantha's fault. According to him, Samantha was a very mean woman who treated her daughter like an animal. He went on to say that on June 11th, Phoenix had been misbehaving. She was being very loud, so Samantha put her in the corner. But she had moved from that spot, so Carl picked her up and threw her on top of a bag of clothes. The couple then left to go to his father's house, and while they were gone, his 12-year-old son called him up and told him that Phoenix was not breathing. So once they returned back home, the couple picked up her body and disposed of it. But Samantha had wanted to go back to the scene because, according to Carl, she wanted to chop Phoenix's head off so they wouldn't be able to identify her body.
Who's responsible here? You or Samantha?
To me, it's both of us.
It's both of you?
Yes.
How is it both of your fault? Explain to me.
I don't know. She would always tell me to tell that kid to keep quiet.
Okay. That day, was she telling you to keep the kid quiet?
No, she was downstairs. I think at the beginning she was downstairs because we were going to go out.
Okay.
To go see my dad.
Right.
So she put her kid in the corner there.
Is this in the basement?
In the basement.
Yeah. Okay, so she put her kid in the basement because the kid wouldn't keep quiet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a mean woman.
Right. Yeah.
She had no heart.
No way.
I know she loves my babies.
I bet she does.
Well, she made a mistake too.
Yeah. Well, you both made mistakes. You're not perfect. Right?
Yeah. I got to pay for this.
So, explain to me how it happened.
I can't remember.
Try and remember for me, okay?
I remember.
I can't hear you.
I don't even remember this. We just. I don't know. Fucking. She put her in the corner, and I don't know what the fucking. She came out of the corner, and then
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I grabbed her. I threw her on the clothes. There was a bag of clothes. I threw her on there. And says, listen to your mom, I said. So we went and we left. And then Daniel phoned me. She said that this little girl wasn't breathing anymore.
Yeah.
I came back, the sounds like this.
Yeah, I know he did. That's what Daniel said. Nice.
They're trying to revive her.
Yeah. But it didn't work.
We were scared.
I bet you were.
Once they were back home, Samantha asked Carl to clean up the basement floor and paint over it to get rid of any evidence. Just months later, the couple would go on to have a second child together, and they continued to claim the welfare checks that were meant for Phoenix. If anyone ever asked where the 5-year-old was, they would claim that she was staying with her father or with another relative. Eventually, Carl would lead police to where Phoenix had been buried, which was near the Fisher River landfill.
either here or right in here. I know it's in here somewhere.
Okay.
Starting from that point where you're standing there.
Where the light is?
Right around here.
Okay. Okay, so you've marked this spot here.
Yeah.
Oh, so and can you mark where else it's going to be?
Okay. Because I had a small light right here.
Right. Okay. Now, is that the other spot?
This might be the spot here.
Okay. So.
Yeah, because that looks a little deeper in.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I was about here.
Yeah? How far off the trail?
It wasn't very far off this trail here.
Yeah.
Because there's another trail right here.
Okay.
And I think it was this spot here.
Okay.
Right in here.
All right.
It was discovered that the 5-year-old had suffered fractures to her entire body. Many of her injuries were unhealed too, so she would have been in a great deal of pain prior to her death. Carl and Samantha were both then charged with first-degree murder. The pair would go to trial in late 2008, during which time they did not show any sadness or remorse for what had happened to little Phoenix. Carl's youngest son would testify, and he would say that both his father and mother regularly beat the little girl. His dad had also on numerous occasions shot her with a BB gun, and he liked to play a game called Choke the Chicken, in which he would choke Phoenix until she was unconscious. Often, she was forced to stay inside a dark room with a blanket over her head. There were many times that Carl's son had heard the little girl crying from the basement where she was forced to sleep. But if the little boy ever went down there to try to give her a blanket or turn on the heat because it was so cold, he would get yelled at. Food was also often kept from Phoenix, and sometimes she was forced to eat her own vomit. Things had actually gotten so bad for her inside the home that she stopped crying during her beatings. On the day that the 5-year-old died, Carl's son said that his father had actually been throwing her around the basement for a solid 15 minutes, all while Samantha looked on and laughed. Now, Carl's niece, who was named Allison, said that she had seen the little girl not being properly treated inside the home, but she had not reported it out of fear of her uncle. She had also gone over to Carl and Samantha's home a few days after Phoenix had been killed. While there, she noticed several drops of blood on the basement stairs. Her uncle, who was normally relaxing, was busy running up and down those stairs, and Samantha was sitting at her computer, crying. When Allison asked them where Phoenix was, she was told that she was in Ontario with her father because she had been bad.
Allison Kekawash doesn't mince words about her uncle, Carl Wesley McKay.
Because he's wicked.
Kekawash used to take her own baby to the house McKay rented in Fisher River, but her first play date with 5-year-old Phoenix Sinclair was cut short when the little girl accidentally knocked another child to the floor. McKay grabbed Phoenix roughly, called her a bitch, and threw her in a room.
Can't remember if there was a bed in there or not. It was a dark room.
The next time Kekawash visited McKay, Phoenix was again alone in the dark room.
And she was standing there with a blanket over her head. She was in a panty. And she was just standing there looking at me.
The little girl's body was covered in marks.
I don't know if it was bruises or scrapes or dirt.
About a week later, she returned to the house.
It's like I felt this bad feeling. Like, as if Wesley killed somebody.
Kekawash walked in through the back door, her eyes drawn to the basement steps.
What did you see when you walked in?
Drips of blood.
In the end, both Samantha and Carl would be found guilty on their charges, and they were sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 25 years. At the time of his sentencing, Carl would make a statement in which he apologized to everyone, including Phoenix. But he wasn't able to finish reading it as he started crying uncontrollably. Then, when it was time for Samantha to speak, she would say, "Everyone can say what they want to say. Call me whatever you want. I never did this, and I know that Phoenix knows that." She was in complete denial and kept insisting that her boyfriend was the only one responsible for her death. The mother later claimed that she'd been a victim of DV at Carl's hands, and she often took beatings so that her daughter didn't have to. Yeah, okay, lady. Then in 2022, Samantha was actually granted time outside of jail, supervised, so that she could go visit her family and also see an Indigenous leader for spiritual development. Ridiculous that this is allowed. A little while after Phoenix's body was found, a funeral was held for her, and she was buried in Brookside Cemetery in Winnipeg. 9 years after the little girl had been killed, a $14 million inquiry finally determined that the child welfare system had failed her.
In the commissioner's words, Phoenix Sinclair was left defenseless against the cruelty of her mother and the sadistic violence of her stepfather, failed by a system that was warned about safety concerns at least 13 times, and almost every time the inquiry found that files were open and shut, sometimes without caseworkers ever laying eyes on Phoenix.
The child welfare system failed Phoenix Sinclair. We deeply regret and are profoundly saddened by the loss of this child.
While the inquiry noted excessive workloads and a lack of training within Winnipeg's Child and Family Services may have contributed to her death, Commissioner Ted Hughes also found deficiencies in the delivery of services to Phoenix did not result from a lack of understanding of policies, but a lack of compliance with existing policies and best practice, that there was a fundamental misunderstanding of their role to protect children. The mom and stepdad were sentenced to life in prison, but no one within Child and Family Services has ever been fired or even disciplined and won't be.
I absolutely think that someone should be fired. I think that more charges should be laid, but it's about the inquiry.
And Phoenix's godmother says she finds hope in the 62 recommendations made in the report, 20 of which the Manitoba government is already implementing. One of its key findings, this isn't just a Manitoba issue, that there are a disproportionate amount of Aboriginal children in care right across this country.
Well, thank you for listening to Phoenix's story today. It's insane that Child Protective Services was involved in this little girl's life before she was even born. Yet they still failed her so miserably. They had received multiple calls about her mistreatment prior to her death, but they never laid eyes on her, closed out the case, and seemingly forgot that she ever existed. So sad. What do you think about this case? On March 24th, 2015, 35-year-old Michelle Blair received an eviction notice from her apartment. She was behind on her rent by $2,206. Her and her 4 children lived in an apartment in the Martin Luther King apartment complex in downtown Detroit. Michelle had stopped paying her rent because she had a hard time holding down a job, so she would often call her family for money. Her family would say, "Go get a job," or "Go back to school, better yourself, get a career." Michelle didn't want to do either one of these, so that's how she eventually fell behind on the rent. She did receive state welfare. However, she had stated in her first police interrogation how often she drank. So I'm sure that a lot of that money ended up going towards alcohol. When this eviction was served, Michelle was actually just a few apartments down, babysitting some neighbors' children. Regardless, she wasn't there, so the eviction crew went in to remove all of her and her children's stuff from the apartment. When the eviction team entered the house, it was nearly unlivable. There was trash everywhere, food particles, dirt. It was disgusting. It was no place to be raising children. As they started to move things out, they found a large standalone freezer that was extra heavy. When they went to look inside of it, what they found was horrifying. It was the bodies of not just 1, but 2 children. 2 of Michelle Blair's 4 children were dead inside a freezer that she kept in her apartment. Michelle was immediately arrested and brought in for questioning. She was arraigned on 4 counts of first-degree child abuse and 1 count of committing child abuse first degree in the presence of another child. She was also charged with 2 counts of murder. Her bond was set to $1 million. One of the bodies that was found in the freezer was that of Stony Blair, Michelle's daughter. She was only 13 at the time of her death. Stony was born June 8th, 1999, and her nickname was Honey Bear. She had a very bubbly personality, and it said that she just loved balloons. They always made her smile. The other child that they found was Stephen Barry. He was 9 at the time of his death. Stephen Barry's birthday was June 20th, 2004. His nickname was Little Man, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find much other information on Stephen or who he really was as a person. Their little bodies took 3 full days to thaw out before the medical examiner could perform the autopsies. Once the autopsies were done, it was determined that both the children died of blunt force trauma, and Stephen also had many thermal injuries. Both children had scarring on the insides of their mouths, which indicated that they had both been slapped and punched numerous times. Stephen had been murdered on August 30th, 2012, and Stony on May 25th, 2013. When Michelle was brought in for questioning, she admitted that she did this to her children, and here's what she said happened. She told investigators that in August of 2012, she discovered her son, Matthew, simulating sexual acts with a doll. She asked him why he was doing that and if anyone had done something like that to him. At first, he said no, but then she says he changed his answer to yes. Stephen did this to me. She said that Matthew told her the abuse had been going on for years. Keep in mind, Michelle had no job and she homeschooled the children. So the chances of this happening, while they're not 0, they're also highly unlikely. And if they were true, these allegations, children learn that stuff somewhere. So as a parent, I feel like you're probably responsible if something like that is happening. Well, if you let this go on for years without knowing, it sounds very implausible. Michelle then confronted Stephen, who supposedly ended up confessing to the abuse, but it was only after he had initially denied it. Michelle says that she became furious about this. As a child, she was sexually abused as well, so this made her especially angry. At this point, Michelle says that she began punching Stephen over and over again. After this, she said she turned on scalding hot water and dipped his feet in it. Along with this, she also had some other depraved things that she did to him. She strangled him with a belt. She burnt his genitals with scalding hot water over and over again. And she forced him to drink Windex. She wanted him to confess what he had done to Matthew. She said that he started to confess. However, this is most likely an attempt for him to not continue getting the beatings. He figures if he confesses, then she'll stop. That's the only thing it can do at this point, isn't it? The other siblings say that they witnessed all of this happening to Stephen. Michelle would put plastic bags over Stephen's head, and when he tried to tear through the bags to breathe, Michelle would use Force Flex trash bags and put them over his face so that they were even stronger and he couldn't rip them. She would suffocate him until he lost consciousness. She would then slap him awake, as she describes, so he could have more beatings, I'm sure. Michelle said that after 4 or 5 days of this, Stephen had had enough. On his last night, he said that he had to use the bathroom and then went into the bathroom and said, "No, I don't have to." Then said, "I feel like I'm going to be sick," but then wasn't sick. He then went and laid in his bed, where Michelle went in and offered him some beef stew. When he refused to eat, she force-fed him. The next morning, she found him unresponsive, with vomit all around him. Michelle says that she was going to turn herself into the police at this point, but somehow her youngest son, Matthew, convinced her not to. She's an adult woman and a young child convinced her, "No, don't do it." I highly doubt that. So instead, she decided to go grab Stephen's favorite monkey blanket from his room and wrap his body in it. She then placed him into the freezer that was in the family's living room. 9 months later, in May of 2013, Michelle says that she found out her daughter Stony was also sexually abusing Matthew. And she also said that she had a problem with the other 2 siblings. As a result, Michelle decided that she was going to start starving Stony. She did this for a period of 2 weeks, only giving her a bowl of oatmeal, if that, a day. She also admitted to beating her with a blue wooden rod until she had bumps all over her head. She said that she also threw scalding hot water at her, just as she had done to Steven before. She says that her youngest, Matthew, had claimed that Stony was taking her menstrual pads and squeezing them in his mouth. That sounds like something that only Michelle would be capable of thinking of personally. After weeks of starvation, on May 25th, Michelle went to Stony's room, where she first started to choke Stony with a black t-shirt. When she realized that Stony was still alive, she put a plastic bag over her head. She suffocated Stony multiple times. However, in the end, Stony's death was caused by blunt force trauma. She then took Stony's body and, with the help of her eldest daughter, put Stony's body in the freezer as well, right on top of Steven's. She said later in court that she meant to kill Stony and she would do it all over again. Steven, she wanted to torture him, but killing him wasn't on purpose. It sure sounded like she wanted to kill him. In court, she said she only had 2 children and that the other 2 children whom she had killed were just demons.
Were you Steven's mother?
Yes.
He was in your custody?
I don't claim him as my son now, and I do not claim Stony as my daughter. I have 2 children, that's it. Steven and Stony are demons, period.
You meant to kill her?
I definitely meant to kill her.
Okay. It wasn't an accident?
No, not at all. Okay. If I had a chance to do it again, I would.
When you went and got the grocery bag and suffocated her, that was your intent?
Yes. Okay. She was standing in the bathtub. I was throwing hot water on her. My son was standing to my right outside the bathroom door, and he was telling me everything he was telling me. I looked at her and I'm like, "You did this?" And she was like, "Yes." So I actually had a stick and I was hitting her in the head. Every time he told me something, I hit her very hard in her head, and I was throwing hot water on her. And when I actually took her out of the bathroom, I took her back in her room and I just kept staring at her, and I said, excuse my language, to him, just like, you know, I'm constantly asking her. She kept saying, "I hate him." And I'm like, "You hate him?" You know? And she admitted to me that she hated Steven. She hated everybody. And I'm asking her why. She says, "'Cause everybody always think so cute." And I'm like, "So you brother," because you get what I'm saying. So I meant to. I definitely meant to. And I do not feel any remorse for what I did to Stony, because she had no remorse for what she did to my son.
After Michelle had killed her 2 children, their bodies sat there from 2012 and 2013 to 2015. That's when they were discovered, when Michelle was evicted. Michelle's oldest daughter said that she hated walking by that freezer and would often avoid even going to the living area because she knew her siblings' bodies were in there. None of them had been enrolled in Detroit schools, and Michelle was homeschooling all 4 of her children. And in these types of cases, homeschooling usually means I'm hiding my child from the public for a reason. And that was absolutely true in this case as well. It was later found out that the other children in the household were abused as well. When they examined them after Michelle was arrested, they found scars and bruising all over their bodies. The oldest daughter had a cut above her eye, which she said was from her mother hitting her with a plank of wood. And she also had a chipped front tooth, which she said was from her mother hitting her with a curling iron. She said all the children were abused all of their lives by Michelle. In 2002 and 2005, there were reports of child neglect made against Michelle. When these claims were investigated, they were substantial, as Michelle was referred to counseling, though it is unclear if she actually went or not. You think that would have been a mandatory thing had the claims been substantial. But I guess not. And even with these reports, the children were never removed from Michelle's home. So after Michelle had killed her 2 children, she of course continued to receive welfare benefits for the 2 of them. What was the other choice? To say that they had died and then cause further suspicion? Of course she collected for them. She said that when anyone would ask about the other two children, she would just make up excuses, saying they were at their aunt's, or they were at a sleepover, or they were sick, or she always had a different excuse for where Stony and Steven were. One of Michelle's neighbors said that she had told her that she made Stony and Steven move away with their aunt because she found out that they had been abusing Matthew. So as far as these children's fathers go, Alexander Dorsey, who is the father of Stony, as well as the oldest surviving girl, said that he had last seen his children 2 years before the freezer was discovered, and that at that time Michelle had barred him from her house. He talked to his oldest daughter approximately 7 months before. When he had asked about where Stony was, he was told that she was with her maternal great aunt. However, Alexander really failed to protect his children from an abusive environment. He also owed $39,000 worth of child support payments. Steven's father, by the same name, Stephen Barry, as well as the other child, Matthew, said he had last seen his children in April of 2012, and that since then Michelle had also barred him from seeing his children. He also owed $10,000 in child support. Both fathers had criminal histories as well, including drunk driving and weapon offenses. So, in my opinion, they also failed the children. They could have protected them. They should have known if Michelle had been doing this from the beginning of these children's lives, then these fathers had to have known that there was going on in the households, or they weren't part of these children's lives at all, which in turn is also failing them. Michelle had many outbursts in court, especially towards the children's fathers, saying that they were never there for their kids. The state was able to terminate the rights of both Michelle and the fathers of the surviving children. They were both sent to live with their maternal aunt and uncle. Michelle had actually expressed a wish for them to live with that aunt and uncle, as the aunt was a retired child abuse investigator, and she had expressed concern for the children in the past. Michelle said that the aunt would properly care for the children so that they didn't, quote, turn out like her. Well, hopefully the aunt didn't take care of you when you were younger, because if that's the case, then I'm concerned. Community members ended up gathering at the Martin Luther King Apartments for a vigil to honor the two children who had been found, Stephen Barry and Stony Blair. On the porch of the apartment that the family once lived in, everyone left hundreds of candles, colorful balloons, and stuffed animals. Michelle Blair was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment in June of 2015.
Record to be clear, abundant evidence that the surviving children were physically abused by this defendant. That's a lie.
If you can't behave yourself, you're going to get... Okay, listen, you're going to get an opportunity to speak. If you can't behave yourself, I'm going to put you in the back. We'll finish our portion of the proceeding. I can bring you back out here to speak, because you're going to get an opportunity. But if you interrupt people, I have to put you in the back. So it's just your choice. Okay.
I want to say, this prosecutor, I can't see your face, but I wish I could. You discussed me. The Dorsey family discussed me. Because how dare you say that didn't happen to my son? You weren't there. Y'all was never there. You were the absentee people.
How dare she say that? How dare she say there's no evidence?
It's my turn to talk. It's my turn to talk. After all is said and done, you imposed the death penalty on your own children.
I did.
And you readily admit it, and you want to take responsibility of it. You're therefore sentenced to the Michigan Department of Corrections for the rest of your life without the possibility of parole, meaning, of course, that you will never get out. The people still have remaining counts in the information. Go ahead.
She is currently serving her sentence at the Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Pittsfield Township, Michigan. While Michelle has been in prison, she has also accumulated at least 30 misconduct reports. She was accused of assaulting and spitting on other prisoners, using cans to throw urine and feces at the correctional officers, and even hitting police personnel as well. Because of her conduct, she was actually sentenced to an additional 38 months to 5 years. These are to run consecutively with her life sentence. Michelle has no chance of parole. She'll remain there for life. Eric Blair, one of Michelle's brothers, said that he had actually reached out to his sister on Facebook about a month before the two bodies of the children were found. He said that on the day she was arrested, she had actually called him, but he had missed the phone call and she never left a message, and when he called her back, she didn't answer. He said that his family was praying to get clarity and understanding out of this situation. He's very grateful that they are not burying 4 children, and it could have been worse. The Greater Grace Temple hosted the funeral for Stony and Steven, where hundreds turned up to honor their memory. The Mount Hope Memorial Gardens donated plots of land, and the children were buried side by side. Steven and Stony died way too young, and even in their death, their mother is blaming them for what she did to them. It's horrifying and disgusting. It's very obvious that the accusations Michelle puts against her children are false, as the older child would have known about it, would have seen it. Michelle would have known about it or seen it sooner. She also beat all of her children, so this was just an excuse. And as we can see through her actions in prison, she's got a lot of things missing. Well, thank you for listening to all of Stony and Steven's story. It's very shocking and sad what happened to both of them. And the fact that it wasn't discovered for years after just makes it that much worse.
She cried when the prosecutors showed a photo of Bella.
We were always happy.
She also shed tears remembering the first time she saw the story on the news that her child had washed ashore on Deer Island.
Then I saw Bella on the news. I dropped to my knees and I was like, that's Bella.
On the afternoon of June 25th, 2015, a plastic garbage bag washed up on the shoreline of Deer Island near Boston, Massachusetts, just miles away from Logan Airport. Around that same time, a woman was out walking her dog, when suddenly the dog came across the bag and wouldn't leave it alone. Wondering what it was, she bent down to check it out. And what she discovered inside the bag would completely horrify her. It was the decomposed and bloated remains of a child. The body was that of a little girl who was wearing only a pair of white leggings designed with a black polka dot pattern, and she was wrapped up in 2 blankets, including a zebra print one. Authorities estimated that the girl had died within only days of the discovery of her body. However, due to the decomposition rate and the bloating from the water, they were unable to identify who the child was. They weren't even sure of her race or ethnicity, and due to the bloating in her fingers, they weren't even able to obtain fingerprints. It would be determined, however, that the girl was likely white with a possible Hispanic background, and she was somewhere between the ages of 3 and 5 years old. She was estimated to have a height of somewhere between 3 foot 1 inch and 3 foot 6 inches. And she weighed around 30 pounds. The girl also had no distinctive birthmarks or scars, but she did have pierced ears. The clothing that was found on the child, including black and white polka dot leggings, were a size 4T and the brand Circo, which is sold at Target. The zebra blanket that was found with the girl's body was possibly made by the Cannon Mills Company and sold at a Kmart. A hairband was additionally discovered with the body. Given what police found, it looked like whoever this girl was had been well taken care of during her life. So the question was, how did she end up here? After other attempts to identify the body had failed, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children digitally reconstructed the girl's face. The reconstruction of her image was created by a forensic artist, and it was released on July 2nd, 2015. However, due to its very realistic nature, viewers who saw this on TV were confused and thought it was an actual photograph. The center also digitally enhanced images of the leggings and the blanket that had been found with the child's remains, and they created a poster featuring them on their website. Flyers containing images of the little girl, who is now being called the Deer Island Baby Doe, were distributed. And after weeks of not being able to identify who the child was, billboards were also put up throughout Massachusetts. An autopsy of the girl's body would be conducted on July 3rd. However, it was inconclusive as to what had caused the girl's death. And while authorities suspected foul play on the case, there were no obvious injuries to the body. Tests were also later conducted to determine if there were any toxins, drugs, or alcohol found in the remains, but they all came back negative. Now, police were unsure how the child's remains had washed up on Deer Island that day. The body could have either been placed there or it could have drifted from another location. And if it had been placed in the water at another location and had drifted, police were not sure exactly how far it could have come. It could have come from as far as Canada, they believed. So the United States Coast Guard entered the equation to analyze the currents of the water in the area so they could determine where the bag containing the remains had originated from. Authorities later established that the little girl had been placed at the scene rather than washing in from elsewhere, because her body was not in an advanced enough state of decomposition. A press conference was held asking anyone who may be able to identify the little girl to come forward. But despite the authorities' hopes, no one spoke up and took responsibility for the crime or confirmed who the victim was. There were, however, hundreds of tips submitted over the phone and online, and all of them were looked into. Leads were pursued involving children who had been reported as missing, including some who weren't even from the United States. Some of these potential matches were later located alive. After weeks went by and no one came forward to identify the little girl, police were sure that she was either the child of an illegal immigrant who didn't want to come forward due to fear of deportation, or this little girl had not been killed by a stranger, but rather someone in her own family. After the child's body was discovered, dozens of complete strangers began going to Deer Island to leave flowers, teddy bears, and say prayers for her. It wouldn't be until nearly 3 months after the body had been found that the little girl would finally be identified on September 18, 2015. After a man named Michael Sprinsky came forward, police discovered that the child's name was Bella Bond. This man told police that his friend named Rochelle Bond had actually confided in him and told him that her current boyfriend, who was named Michael McCarthy, had killed her daughter Bella. She also said that she was an accomplice and had helped dispose of the body. Now, Michael Sprinsky had known Rochelle Bond and her boyfriend, Michael McCarthy, for some time now, and he had even lived with the couple for a bit. Apparently, a few days before he had come forward to police, Michael Sprinsky had been walking with Rochelle when she told him that she was glad she was able to stop using drugs. Michael then told her how great that was and said that she might be able to get Bella back, as he was under the impression that Child Protective Services had taken her away months prior. But when Michael said this to Rochelle, it caused her to burst into tears, and she claimed, "I will never see my daughter again." Confused, Michael asked her what she meant, and it was at that point that she confessed that her boyfriend, Michael McCarthy, had killed Bella. Upon hearing this, Michael Sprinsky had then texted Michael McCarthy, who was in the hospital, and he asked him if it was true. Michael McCarthy replied back that Bella was in the care of Child Protective Services. And who was he going to believe? Him or some crackhead? But Michael Sprinsky, along with his sister, who he had informed of the situation, were highly suspicious and decided to contact police.
Mike Sprinsky was homeless and addicted to heroin when Rochelle Bond told him his childhood friend Michael McCarthy killed her 2-year-old daughter Bella. He immediately reached out to Laura. They shared their text messages from that day.
At 12:33, I reported it.
Mike had never heard of Baby Doe, the little girl whose body had washed up on Deer Island, but Laura had.
And then I said to him, "Did you see the pictures of the missing girl? Does it look like her?" And then I told him, put in the search bar, Baby Doe, Deer Island, found on June 25th. And then he said, "That's her, man. I'm 99% sure." And then he wrote, "Dead serious. I'm crying. That's how serious, Laura. That's her. I'm freaking out."
As soon as I seen that, everything that was going on, it all hit me at once. I was like, wow. I'm like, these two sick. They're animals.
And I was like just calling everybody, someone listen to me, please.
Their tip led police to make the link.
Once authorities received this information, they went over to Rochelle's apartment. There, a state trooper noticed that there was child's clothing laying on the floor, and also noticed that there was zebra-themed items similar to the blanket that they had found with the little girl's body. After returning with a search warrant in hand, police combed through the apartment, and they were able to obtain DNA evidence from a nasal syringe as well as a hairbrush, and they would come back as a positive match for Bella Bond. Now, tips had poured in after the investigators had released the image of Baby Doe, yet no one closest to Bella had come forward to identify her. This was because Rochelle Bond had lied to everyone, including her own family members, as to where her daughter was. Bella's aunt would say that she had never even suspected that baby doe was Bella because she didn't think that it looked like her. And I agree. I don't really think the picture looks very much like her either. The aunt also said that she hadn't seen Bella or Rochelle in quite a few months due to Rochelle's anger issues. On top of that, Bella's maternal grandmother wasn't even aware that the little girl had been born. When police had executed the search warrant on Rochelle's Dorchester apartment, the 40-year-old had actually snuck out the back window, and she would claim that this wasn't because she wanted to just avoid police and their questioning. It was because she actually wanted to tell Bella's biological father, Joe Amoroso, what had happened first. She, however, would end up being found and arrested, then charged with accessory after the fact. The day after they searched the apartment on September 18th, police would also arrest Michael McCarthy and charge him with murder. So sweet 2-year-old Bella Nevaeh Amoroso Bond had been born on August 6, 2012, to her mother Rochelle Bond and her father Joseph Amoroso. She was the caring and happy girl who was also very smart and quick to learn new things. Bella knew how to make pizza, loved listening to music, and she also loved anything Hello Kitty. But the little girl's mother, Rochelle, had long struggled with drug addiction problems. She had multiple drug offense-related charges, and in 2010 and 2011 had been arrested for prostitution. Rochelle also had at least 12 other offenses on her record as well, and had been living off state benefits for 13 years prior to Bella even being born. Additionally, Rochelle had 2 other children, but they had both been taken away from her, and she had her parental rights terminated in 2001 and in 2006. Both of these children had gone to live with Rochelle's mother after. Then, around the time that Rochelle found out she was pregnant with Bella, she was incarcerated again for a few months. And after she gave birth to her daughter, she would be discharged from the hospital, and they were placed into a family shelter where they received services from a home visiting program up until May of 2013 when Rochelle's probation ended. The Department of Children and Families had also been in contact with Rochelle twice during Bella's life. Once in 2012 and once in 2013, both involving suspected neglect. However, each time, the case was closed out within only 45 days of it being opened. So needless to say, Rochelle had not proved herself to be a fit mother, and likely should not have been given the chance to be a mother again when Bella was born. Now, Bella's biological father, Joe, wasn't really in her life, and he had never met his daughter. He had spoken to her on the phone a few times, however. He had just never met her in person. Joe and Rochelle had both been actively using drugs together at the time that Bella was conceived. His drug of choice was crack cocaine, hers heroin. And at the time that his daughter had died, Joe would say that he was working on trying to get his life back together for his daughter. About a month after the second child services case was closed, around Bella's first birthday in August of 2013, Rochelle and Bella moved to an apartment on Maxwell Street in Dorchester. Here, Rochelle decorated her daughter's room with a jungle theme, including her daughter's favorite animal, monkeys. Neighbors and friends would say that Rochelle finally seemed determined to stay clean and better her life for her and Bella. In their new place, the mother and daughter would frequently sing country music together while dancing around. They would say grace at meals, and Rochelle would even frequently post pictures of her with her little girl.
Go ahead. Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Val! Yeah! Pull it over. She's like, what the fuck, that's too much. There you go. Happy birthday, Val! Silly string, get it off.
Yeah.
Wait. Don't turn too much so I can get it off. It's not like aerosol, that's what it does. Come on, ball, monkey. We got it all off. Walk through it. Come on. Walk through it. Come on, monkey. Look what Mom did. Look what Mama did while you were sleeping. Look at the house. Look. Happy birthday. Look at Belle. Look on the table. Oh my God. What is that? Ooh, what's that, Bella? What did Mama and Aunt Shannon do while you were sleeping? That's for you. Come on, let's go. Let's go look. Come on, let's go. Me and Aunt Shannon did this. Come on. Bella, come on, let's go look. Want to see it? Come on. Come on, monkey. Monkey, look. Look at the table, monkey. Look at it. Oh my God. Look at the table. Isn't that beautiful? Look what Mama and Auntie Shannon did. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. Isn't that awesome? No. Happy second birthday, monkey. Bella. Happy second birthday, monkey. Yay. Yay. Happy second birthday. Woo.
Then, at the beginning of 2015, the mother met and began dating a man named Michael McCarthy. She found him charming for some reason and would let him move in with her and Bella. She claimed that Michael was good to her daughter and sometimes would even overindulge her. But then, not long after Michael moved in, Rochelle would stop posting updates to her social media account. Now, the mother should never have been under the impression that Michael living with her and her daughter was a good thing, because not only was he a drug addict, but he was also prone to bizarre outbursts and was obsessed with demons. And it wouldn't be long until neighbors reported hearing Bella crying through the walls on a regular basis. The witness who had come forward to identify Bella, Michael Sprinsky, said that he had lived with the couple for quite some time. And when he had noticed escalating abuse towards Bella. In spring of 2015, the couple had locked the little girl in a closet while she screamed. According to Michael Sprinsky, both Rochelle and Michael McCarthy believed that the toddler was possessed by demons. According to him, the couple had been very interested in the occult lately. And he claimed that he eventually ended up moving out of the apartment because of their treatment of Bella. When authorities spoke with Rochelle following her arrest, she told them that on the day that her daughter had died, it was only one of many abusive occasions that had happened after Bella became uncooperative about going to bed. It had happened one night in late May of 2015, around 11:30 p.m., when Bella became extremely uncooperative and refused to go to bed for the night. Michael McCarthy, who was in Bella's room with Rochelle, told his girlfriend to not worry about it. He would handle it. So Rochelle left the room, and shortly after, she would hear Bella's screaming stop. When she went back into her daughter's room to check on things, she saw her boyfriend Michael standing over her daughter. She would also later say that she saw him delivering blows to the girl's abdomen. And right after, Bella's head appeared to be swollen and gray. But even though the state medical examiner had found bruising on the girl's arms, thighs, and abdomen, he did not find any conclusive evidence that Bella had died from a punch to her stomach. Her cause of death is still unknown. Following this attack, it was apparent to Rochelle that her daughter was dead. However, Michael McCarthy didn't seem to care, and he turned to Rochelle and said, "She was a demon anyway. It was her time to die." Rochelle would later claim that she had then picked up her daughter in order to leave. But Michael had grabbed her by the throat with both of his hands and threatened to kill her if she went anywhere or said anything. Rochelle then said that she blacked out and later woke up on the living room couch. That night, and for the next week, Rochelle claimed that her boyfriend Michael injected her in the neck with heroin to sedate her. He also, according to Rochelle, had wrapped up her daughter's body in a plastic trash bag, then stuck her in the fridge. And cadaver dogs would later alert to the fridge's handle. Rochelle would then claim that over the next week, Michael continued to inject her with drugs in order to keep her calm and cooperative. She said this happened up to 7 times every day. Then, a few days after Bella's death, Michael brought Rochelle out to his car. In the back seat, she saw a green duffel bag that she believed contained her daughter's body. The two had then driven to Boston Harbor, where Rochelle claims they dumped Bella.
Mike was stunned when he learned during the trial that Bella's body had been originally dumped in a trash bag in the water near the Edison plant in South Boston. They brought me to the place right near where the Sprinskys and Michael McCarthy grew up.
This is significant. As a teenager, me, Mike, a lot of other people used to come down here and drink. I spent a lot of childhood and teenage years down here.
When you heard this is where her body was dumped, what went through your mind?
Shock and disgust. The way that was done is unimaginable, and they deserve every bad thing that's coming to them.
And even though Rochelle claimed that her boyfriend forced her into doing all of this, she still continued to stay with him for the next few months. In September, Joe Amoroso, Bella's biological father, had shown up at Rochelle's apartment to meet the daughter whom he had never known. But Rochelle would tell him that she was at her godparents at the time. And according to Bella's father, Joe, Rochelle would later admit to him that Michael McCarthy had killed her daughter, and the pair had discussed whether or not they would go to the police. Though neither one of them did before Michael Sprinsky had. Joe would also come forward and say that he believed that Rochelle would never hurt Bella. He was under the impression that what Rochelle had said was true, that Michael McCarthy had sedated her for days. He claimed this was because he had seen track marks on her neck and knew that she couldn't have done that on her own. Though unlike her son, Bella's paternal grandmother believed that Rochelle was heavily involved in Bella's death. And she openly questioned the truthfulness of the allegations that Rochelle had made towards Michael. Patricia Quinn, Joe's mother, Bella's grandmother, had not seen her granddaughter since 2013 and hadn't been sure if the pictures of baby Doe were indeed Bella. It wasn't until September 17th, over 3 months after Bella had been murdered, that Rochelle said she was finally able to run away from her boyfriend, Michael McCarthy, while he was in the hospital. She would also admit to authorities that she should have told them about Bella's murder sooner, and claimed that the reason why she had told her friend Michael Sprinsky finally was because she knew he would believe her. Given the situation, I don't think it's very hard to believe. And I think that quite a few people probably would have believed your story, and that's just bullshit. When police spoke with Michael McCarthy, he denied killing Bella. In fact, he denied even knowing that she was dead. However, he was still charged. Rochelle would also later receive an additional charge herself of larceny, after it was found that she had accepted nearly $1,400 in welfare benefits following Bella's death. Both Michael and Rochelle were arraigned in court on September 21, 2015. Rochelle was given a $1 million bond, and Michael was held without bail. Then in February of 2017, a prosecutor on the case suggested that Bella's mother, Rochelle, be awarded with her time served in exchange for her testimony against Michael McCarthy. This decision was made considering the allegations that Rochelle had put forth about Michael threatening to kill her if she said anything about her daughter's death. So on February 10, 2017, she pleaded guilty. And she was credited with time served plus 2 years of probation, which is complete horseshit. Michael McCarthy would end up going to trial for Bella's murder in June of 2017.
2 years later, and Bonnie Flynn still can't erase what she found along the rocky edge of Deer Island.
I seen 2 legs come out folding. They just came out like that. I looked away, thinking that it wasn't real.
The Winthrop woman was walking her dog on a Thursday afternoon in June of 2015 when she found a laundry bag containing the body of a little girl, later identified as Bella Bond.
I asked if he can call 911 because I just found a dead baby on the beach.
Flynn's emotional testimony was the first heard in Michael McCarthy's murder trial.
It was the defense's strategy to blame everything on her mother, Rochelle. His lawyer would object to claims made by Rochelle's defense lawyer and stated that his client had no knowledge of Bella's death and there was not sufficient evidence to prove that he did have anything to do with it. Furthermore, they argued that Michael had moved out of the apartment that he had been sharing with Rochelle prior to Bella's death. According to them, Michael had left because Rochelle was very emotionally and physically abusive towards her daughter. Also, at the time of Bella's death, the defense claimed that Michael McCarthy had a broken collarbone, making him pretty much disabled. They were also pushing the narrative that Rochelle's statements couldn't be confirmed, and she had a long history of lying and drug abuse. There was also the fact that the autopsy had not found that the little girl died from a blow to her stomach, as Rochelle claimed. It was believed that Rochelle had actually just fabricated her entire story in order to avoid punishment herself. However, it was discovered that Michael had sent Rochelle a text message soon after Bella's death that said, "Don't tell them you have a daughter. We don't want the Department of Child and Family Services getting involved." But the prosecution was claiming that Rochelle had nothing to do with her daughter's death. She had only helped Michael to cover it up because he had threatened to kill her. She had only stayed in the relationship after that because she felt trapped by his abusive behavior and her drug use. They also brought up the fact that Michael had been obsessed with the occult and demons. But according to the defense, it was actually Rochelle who was obsessed with demons and Satanism. Michael was actually a good father who had cared for Bella, they said. An entry from Rochelle's diary that was written in the summer of 2015 was also read aloud in court, and in it she wonders why so many children go missing and are never found. She had then written that it was, quote, because the leaders of every country get together and torture and rape and kill these innocent children each year, just so they can drink their blood and eat their flesh, so that these reptilian demons can have a moment's sanity. Other text messages and journal entries were found that Rochelle had written after her daughter's death, and in these, she speaks about Michael affectionately. Then, a lifelong friend of Michael's would take the stand, and he spoke about how he had warned Rochelle of the potential danger that she might be in after entering into a relationship with Michael McCarthy. Michael's friend explained that this was because he knew Michael McCarthy had a dark side, and often researched topics such as demons and satanic rituals. Michael apparently also believed that he had the ability to expunge demons from people. Michael Sprinsky also emotionally testified during the trial.
Did you recognize anything in the photo?
Yes, I did.
Mike Sprinsky was a key witness for the prosecution at the trial. When the jury went out, he and Laura waited every day for the verdict.
Michael McCarthy is guilty of murder in the second degree.
Finally, when it happened, I just broke down. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, did I hear what I just heard? They said guilty, and then I just hugged my brother. The emotions were so high.
The trial brought the tragic story of Bella's death to a close, but the story continues for Mike. Since he learned of Bella's death, he's been sober. He wanted to make sure he could testify for Bella.
Anytime I ever thought of doing something bad or using, I thought of Bella. All my friends are dead. And the day I found out, like, that was basically like my destiny in life was to be there to speak on her behalf.
He still can't bear to think about how Bella suffered, but every single day she's with him.
Thank God I was able to take something good out of that. And I know one thing, I'll never forget Bella as long as I live.
Thank you. She gave me my brother back. I didn't have my brother for a very long time.
Then it was Bella's mother's turn to testify, and she recalled how when she had met Michael McCarthy, he seemed like a nice person who was good to her daughter. She said that she had invited Michael over to her apartment one day in January of 2015 so they could use drugs together, and then he just never left. The mother also claimed that when she had first seen the baby doe photos on TV, she had been at Joe Amoroso's parents' house, and when she had seen police's photo of the zebra blanket, she'd fallen to her knees crying. But while she was on the stand, Rochelle would change parts of her story that she had previously told police, which made her look rather guilty. She also contradicted something that Joe had testified to, which was that Rochelle had told him she wrapped Bella up in a blanket following her death. But Rochelle testified that she blacked out and didn't know what happened after Bella had been killed.
He punched her in the stomach.
Where was she?
Laying in the bed.
How would you describe the force of that blow?
I don't know, I just saw her bounce off the bed.
What do you mean when you say bounce off the bed? Did she actually come off the bed?
Yeah, she bounced.
But did she bounce up and then come back down on the bed, or actually bounce off the bed?
No, she bounced up and came back down.
Her whole body? Did she react to the, other than her body bouncing, did she react to the punch at all?
No.
What did you do?
So I think I yelled, what did you do?
Is that exactly what you yelled?
What the f did you do?
And did he respond to you?
He just kind of looked at me.
How?
Like, whatever.
What did you do after you asked that?
I grabbed her, and she wasn't breathing, so I tried to do CPR. I said, what the f did you do? You f***ing killed her. And he said, no, it was her time to die. She was a demon.
He said that?
Yes.
Other than that, had you had any conversation with him between the time of that she was killed and the time that he threw the shoes down?
No.
When he injected you in the neck with heroin, I just want to be clear on this, is that something that was, well, he didn't force you, he didn't forcibly inject you with heroin?
No.
When he put his hands on your neck and said he'd kill you, what's the next thing that happened?
I blacked out.
Do you know how long you were blacked out for?
I don't.
When you came to, where were you?
On the couch.
In the living room?
In the living room. So I got up and he had me by the arm and he brought me outside.
Where to?
His car was there.
Where was it?
In front.
Was it day or night?
Night. It was dark.
Do you know what time?
I don't know. It was really dark out. I mean, it was dark out.
Could you tell by traffic or anything else?
There was no traffic.
What happened when he took you out to the car?
So he opened the door for me to get in, and he went around to get in the front. And when I looked in the back, I saw my green duffel bag, and I could see her thigh through it, like it was her in there. And I screamed something, I don't even know what it was, and then he hit me. And
Where did he hit you?
head,
Are you indicating the side of your head?
yes,
Where on the side of your head?
like about here.
Do you know what he hit you with?
I don't know, his hand.
The thing is, there was no physical evidence that pointed to Michael McCarthy being solely responsible for Bella's death. There had been no blood found in his car and no fingerprints linking him to the murder. But Michael McCarthy would still end up being found guilty by a jury. And he was convicted on 2 lesser charges instead of his original charge of first-degree murder. He was found guilty of second-degree murder as well as involuntary manslaughter. And on June 28, 2017, he was sentenced to life in jail with the future possibility of parole. He'll be eligible in 2037, and Michael still maintains his innocence.
Did you kill Bella?
Never. I never harmed a hair on her head. You know, she was a beautiful, happy, healthy little girl.
Did you think Bella was a demon?
Of course not. She was a beautiful little girl.
Guilty of murder in the second degree.
They needed to put this on somebody.
As for how her body ended up in the water, did you have anything to do with that?
My attorney doesn't think it would be a good idea to get into anything specific like that.
Bella!
McCarthy claims Bella may have died accidentally, taking her mother's prescription medication.
The pills are pink, you know, in color, and Bella had a pink fluid in her stomach. Bella didn't get justice first off because they never even determined what happened to her, and I definitely didn't kill her. So she didn't receive justice. Rochelle Bond clearly didn't receive justice because she committed perjury, and she's out walking around, and I'm in prison for a murder I didn't commit, for a murder that didn't even happen.
Following the trial, Rochelle Bond would violate her probation in May of 2018, even though she should have been on her best behavior and extremely happy that she wasn't in jail. Apparently, this probation violation had come after she tested positive for marijuana and cocaine. Following Bella's death, Governor Charlie Baker also ordered that the Department of Child and Family Services be looked into, and the Office of the Child Advocate found that a DCF worker had actually copied a report from 2006 regarding Rochelle's older children, when they'd been writing reports about Bella in 2012 and in 2013. That worker just received a formal written warning in December of 2015. That's it. And Joe Amoroso, who had never met his daughter, would say about her, "No justice on earth fixes this. Bella was, still is, and always will be in my heart and soul. Yet he'd never met her, and didn't report her death after Rochelle had informed him about it."
Patricia says she found out what happened on television the next day.
I was watching the breaking news, and Bella came on. And Rochelle was sitting there and said, "That's my daughter, Bella."
Bella's father says he heard the confession the night prior.
You must have been completely blindsided, but you waited, and you didn't come forward. You didn't call authorities.
I didn't have to. The authorities were all over the investigation. The warrants had already been sent out.
District Attorney Dan Conley.
He certainly should have picked up the phone and done something earlier, but from a criminal responsibility point of view, there aren't statutes that would, be applicable here.
Of course I have regrets. Absolutely. I could have done things differently.
When the news had originally broke about Bella being identified, the community gathered to honor the Dorchester girl, who never even made it to her 3rd birthday. A candlelight vigil was held in honor of Bella on Deer Island on Monday, September 14, 2015. The Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, located on Deer Island, dedicated a bronze plaque to the little girl, just feet away from where Bella's body had been discovered. The group raised $3,800 for the memorial and for Bella's future burial. The plaque read, "For reasons we may never know, an angel came to our shore, causing us to shed a collective tear. May she rest in peace and never be forgotten." Some funds that were left over went towards her burial, and the New England Casket Company also donated a custom-made casket for her. Initially, family members had planned to hold a public funeral service for little Bella, but instead, her burial was private at Rochelle's request. It would be held on November 28, 2015 at Winthrop Cemetery. She was buried next to her great-grandmother. The public did, however, have an opportunity to say one last goodbye to the girl they had once known as Baby Doe, when a service was held at St. John the Evangelist Church on Winthrop Street following her funeral. Well, thank you for listening to Bella's story today. I absolutely believe that Rochelle had more to do with her daughter's death than she told everyone. And she got let off far too easily, especially considering there was no physical evidence proving that Michael was the only one who had killed the child. Not that I don't think he was capable of hurting her. I definitely think he had something to do with it. But I think it was more of a joint effort by him and Rochelle. And she was not forced into doing all these things out of fear. Because if she had, she likely would have made her escape from Michael sooner than almost 3 months after her daughter's death. But what do you think?
Talk, man, because I'm afraid.
Your child is dead and you don't want to talk.
Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Your daughter is dead?
I know that.
And you don't want to tell us who killed your child?
No.
Lord have mercy. Do you have a heart? Do you have a soul?
Destiny Jariah Oliver was born in Knoxville, Tennessee on October 7, 2013, to her mother, Robin Howington, and her father, Antoine Oliver. She was a sweet and happy little girl who loved the color pink, going swimming, playing with her siblings, and getting her nails done. Destiny also had 3 brothers. After the little girl's parents split up, in part due to multiple DV allegations against one another, her father had visitations with Destiny, while her mother retained full custody. So the 5-year-old lived with her and her 2-year-old brother at their home on Balsam Drive in Knoxville. On the evening of Sunday, September 14, 2019, Destiny's mother, Robin, brought both of her children to the playground. But a few hours after they had returned home, around 9 p.m., the mother was contacting emergency services, saying that Destiny had been shot.
Fox County 911.
I got an emergency. This dude was just at my house, and my daughter just got shot, man. Please hurry.
She just got shot right now, ma'am?
Yes.
Who did it? The guy that just walked up to your door?
Yes.
Okay, what's your name, ma'am?
Robin.
Robin, where did he shoot her at? In her arm?
It's in her chest.
Okay, so we're on our way now, and she's laying on the couch?
Oh, my God. What do I need to do? What do I need to do?
We're coming, Miss Robin.
Is she able to speak to you at all? Is she conscious at all? No. Destiny. Oh, my God. I can't believe this.
When first responders arrived on the scene, they found the little girl lying on the couch in the living room, and she had blood on her body. The 5-year-old had been shot, and she had a wound to her chest. She was immediately rushed to the University of Tennessee Medical Center, but would end up passing away. Destiny had been sitting on the couch with her little brother watching some Netflix at the time that she had been shot. She was holding the television remote when the bullet went through her hand, the remote, and then into her chest. The little girl's mother, Robin, whom first responders had found sitting on the couch in the living room talking on her phone when they arrived, told investigators that she and her children had been walking home from the park that evening. And during that time, she felt like someone had been watching them. So instead of taking the normal way back to their house, Robin instead cut through an alleyway. Once they'd arrived back home and gone inside, she put Destiny and her brother on the couch to watch some TV while she cooked dinner. Then suddenly, as Robin claimed she didn't even hear the front door opening, there was a black man standing in her home. She said that he had a gun in his hand, and he shot Destiny. When she looked at him, his eyes were huge. After that, this mystery man fled in his black Chrysler 300.
I didn't even realize he was in here till it was already too late.
And when he shot, what happened? Did he say anything?
Nothing. He looked like he was surprised because she just went limp.
But this story didn't really make much sense to authorities. Why would a random person enter the home, possibly with the intent to rob the family, then just shoot a 5-year-old, nobody else, and run? The mother's concerning behavior at the hospital threw further suspicion her way. Police discovered that she had tried to pay a stranger whom she had come in contact with in the bathroom to take her cell phone. And when this didn't work, she instead decided to run the device under the faucet. Clearly, she was trying to hide something. Detectives would later question the woman whom Robin had tried to give her cell phone to, and she stated that Robin had tried to offer her money because she did not want police to have it. So they decided that they needed to bring the mother down to the station for questioning. And once she was there, she would tell detectives that the reason why she tried to hide what was on her phone was because she was selling marijuana and didn't want to get in trouble for it. But they had already informed her that if she was selling drugs, it wasn't going to be an issue. They weren't there for that. They just wanted to get to the bottom of who had killed Destiny. Robin, however, was not cooperating at all. And she told officers that she had previously been RAPED'd by another officer, which was why she was now so untrusting of them.
You're not the drug police. I don't give a f if you're selling 10 pounds of weed a week. I don't care. You're not going to get trouble from me. Your daughter's dead. I know. And I just want you to be honest with us, okay? So just be honest. We know some things now. We're getting our P's and Q's together, so we're going to come back and don't lie to us.
At the hospital, you said you had to go to the bathroom, right? And you tried to give your phone to some lady, correct? And she wouldn't take it.
I mean, are you going to charge me with something?
What did you do with the phone?
I don't want to talk, man, because I'm afraid.
Your child is dead, and you don't want to talk. What you're telling us is you don't care.
It's not that I don't care. I got by a police officer, so please.
Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Your daughter is dead?
I know that.
And you don't want to tell us who killed your child?
No.
Lord have mercy. Do you have a heart? Do you have a soul? You're right. No, she will be charged. You're going to be charged with tampering. That's tampering with evidence. I'm serious to God. You're going to go to jail for that tonight.
What did I tell you about the weed?
Did you didn't care?
I don't care about weed. You don't care about weed.
Yeah, I promise we don't give a
Your child is deceased. That's what we care about, okay? And a lot of the things so far have not been matching up. They're not making sense. And the fact you try to get rid of your phone doesn't help all that stuff out.
As she was further questioned, Robin admitted that her and her current boyfriend, Daniel, who's also referred to as Callie, not only sold marijuana, but also pills. So maybe it was an associate of hers or Daniel's, or possibly even of Destiny's father, Antoine, who had shot the little girl. What police found to be extremely odd about the entire situation was when they had searched the home, there was not a single shell casing found from a bullet. This made them wonder if the little girl had even been shot inside the home, or maybe she was shot somewhere else, then brought back there. They knew that something about this situation was not right. So trying to get Robin to tell the truth about what had happened to her daughter, officers decided to switch tactics. And they gave the mother an easy out, hoping that it would lead them to the truth. They began questioning her about Destiny's father, Antoine, and asking if maybe he was the one who had killed the 5-year-old.
What's the deal with her dad? If you're not with her and some other guy's coming over there, what's the deal with Destiny's dad?
He got an aggravated assault charge. He's the reason why I don't have my son, because he beat me to the point where I was unconscious. So we really don't get along at all.
Awesome reports, and you and him have had a pretty...
Yes, he's very violent.
time.
Yes, extremely violent. And actually, Destiny had called him, but she's scared of him, so she didn't want to talk to him.
Why is she afraid of him, though?
I really don't know, because, I mean, he's seen her be very cruel to me and talk bad to me.
Do you think he would ever do anything to try to hurt Destiny?
I can't really answer that.
Detectives suggested that maybe he had come by the home that day, angry with Robin, and it started a fight between the two. And during this time, he had pulled out a gun, then accidentally shot Destiny. And just as authorities had planned, Robin latched right onto this theory, and she began to blame Antoine for their daughter's death.
I'll be straight up with you. I feel like it's her dad, and I feel like you don't want to tell us that.
I think he's hit the nail on the head. I don't think he intended to kill the little girl. He said, "Oh, I've shot
That's
my
why
baby."
his eyes got big. I'm telling you, I know.
You're right,
I feel it in my
you're
heart.
right. I'm done. I can't do it.
Why didn't you tell us that earlier?
Because, I mean, this is his daughter, too. I know that he killed her, but I just don't feel like he did it on purpose. I feel like he was trying to kill me.
She claimed that shortly after they had gotten back from the park, he had come over to the home. Not long after he arrived, the pair got into a big argument, and he had pointed the gun at Robin, but accidentally shot Destiny. Once Anton realized what he had done, he fled the scene in his white Chrysler 300. Now, as I had mentioned in the beginning, the former couple had a history of violence, and just 2 days before Destiny had been killed, Antoine showed up at the house. He and Robin then had a serious altercation in which Robin had taken her gun and pointed it at Antoine. Luckily, he was able to disarm her, take the weapon apart, and throw it in different areas of the yard. The thing is, Robin had already informed officers that Antoine had only spoken to his daughter Destiny on the phone that day. He had never been by the home. Another thing that made no sense about the mother's new version of events was when police had been searching the house, they found a gun lying in a bush outside. And when Robin was confronted with this information, she insisted that the weapon belonged to her boyfriend, Daniel. So if Antoine had shot the little girl, why was Daniel's gun the one that was lying in the bushes? Antoine hadn't brought his own gun to the home that day. He had somehow just gotten a hold of Daniel's, shot Destiny, and then left it before he fled. Authorities then discovered video footage that had been taken from a neighbor's Ring doorbell. It showed that at 8:42 p.m., someone was parked outside Robin's house in a car. Shortly after that, the mother and her 2 children arrived back from the playground. Then at 8:46 p.m., the person who had been sitting out front exits the vehicle and goes into the home. But they only stayed for 63 seconds. It's believed that they were there to meet up with Robin to do a quick drug transaction. A minute after this individual leaves, Robin walks out of her home to move her car and have a cigarette. She then goes back inside, and just 3 minutes later, 911 was being called. And as she was on the phone with the emergency operator, Robin was seen exiting the home, then moving towards the side area where the gun was later found. When detectives confronted her with this, Robin changed her story yet again. Now she admitted that the weapon was hers, and she kept it in the home. But she hadn't said anything about it previously because she believed that it was illegal.
If I told you that this video of you coming out there and dropping that gun outside, would you believe that?
Yes. They went in the house.
Okay. So why did you think to get the gun and come and put it outside?
Because I didn't want to be charged with having a gun.
Is that gun the murder weapon? I want to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yes, and he wiped it off.
Then she informed police that it wasn't even an adult who had shot Destiny. It was actually her 2-year-old son.
I was thinking, yes, we're going to put some in jail. And now we're thinking, holy did she kill her child?
Was it a mistake?
If it's a mistake, tell us it's a mistake. Did you accidentally shoot your child?
No.
Well, then what happened?
Gavin got a hold of the gun. It's the honest God truth.
She stated that while Antoine had been over the house and the two were arguing, the little boy must have gone into the other room and taken her gun from the closet. She believed that he was trying to protect her from Antoine, but accidentally shot Destiny in the chest. When police asked her where this firearm had been stored, that her son was able to get a hold of it, Robin said that it had been in a black bag on the top shelf of her bedroom closet. But the little boy must have grabbed a stool from the living room, brought it all the way into her room, over to the closet, climbed up on it, then reached up to the top shelf. He also would have had to open the bag that the weapon was in. But even standing on the stool, on his tiptoes, the 2-year-old would not have been able to reach the place where the gun was supposedly stored. This resulted in Robin telling officers that maybe it wasn't in the top of the closet after all. Her boyfriend Daniel had been the one to pick up the different pieces of the gun 2 days prior, after Antoine had taken it out of Robin's hands and dismantled it. So she claimed that maybe he had put it back somewhere else. Somewhere that was more easily accessible to her son. When officers told Robin that this story could not be true because they knew that Antoine was not at her home at the time that Destiny was shot, her story changed again. She was still blaming the toddler for shooting Destiny, but now she was saying that it actually happened when she had gone outside briefly to have a cigarette and move her car. The mother insisted that as she had been walking back to the house, she saw a flash of light in her glass door. And when she went inside, she found her 2-year-old screaming and crying. Destiny was on the couch, the gun lying on the floor. Robin also admitted to wiping down the firearm for prints and possible DNA. This was in an attempt to protect her son, so he wouldn't get in trouble and so he wouldn't have to live with the guilt of killing his sister for the rest of his life. She additionally confessed to moving around items in her home, including the black purse where her gun supposedly had been stored at the top of her closet, and the stool that her son had also supposedly used. This was all in order to make the scene appear normal, she said. Apparently, this narrative about her son shooting Destiny was something that Robin had been planning the entire time, even though she had previously blamed a mystery man and Destiny's father for her death. Because authorities were later able to recover a text message that she had sent to an acquaintance on the way to the hospital, which said that her son had shot her daughter. The message stated, "Go to my house the back way and get my gun out of the bush under the air conditioner. Gavin shot Destiny. Then come to UT and I got you for free. The police are there, but if you park in the alley and walk up, you're good, because they are in the house." Authorities believe that this message was the reason why Robin had tried to get rid of her phone at the hospital. Now, while her story about a 2-year-old shooting her daughter was not likely, a forensic expert would say that in certain circumstances, it was possible that the 2-year-old could have fired the weapon. That expert, however, would also find that there was gunshot residue on both the little boy's clothes and the dress that Robin had been wearing, indicating that they had both been close to the weapon when it fired, disproving Robin's story that she had been outside at the time. Ultimately, 37-year-old Robin Howington was placed under arrest, and she was charged with felony murder, aggravated child neglect, false reporting, tampering with evidence, and attempted tampering with evidence. However, she would be released just days later on September 18, 2019, after she posted her $20,000 bond. So she was free all the way up until her trial, which didn't begin until March of 2024. At that time, the state contended that even if it had been Robin's young son who had shot Destiny, the mother was still criminally responsible for her death. This was based on her actions and negligence, as well as the fact that she had tried to cover several things up. According to Robin's lawyer, though, her inconsistent statements about who had pulled the trigger that night were due to extreme distress, as she had endured PTSD from her prior sexual assault. So she was not in a rational frame of mind when police interviewed her, they claimed. The mother would even testify in her own defense, giving her version of events of what had happened that night. If you look closely, even though she appears to be crying, there does not look like there's any tears.
I made sure the kids was okay, and I went outside to smoke and move my car.
When you came back from moving the car, what did you do?
I was walking up to my house, and it's a glass door. And I seen a flash of light go off. And when I walked in, Gavin was screaming and crying. And the gun was on the ground.
There's some tissues up there in that box. And did you see where Destiny was at that point?
Yes, she was on the couch.
And was she moving at all?
No.
Did you try to speak with her at all?
Multiple times.
I'm sorry.
Multiple times.
And did she ever respond to you at that point?
No, sir.
Now, what was going through your mind at that moment?
Couldn't fucking believe what was going on.
Also testifying during the trial were several of the responding officers. According to them, Robin didn't seem that upset or overly concerned that her daughter had just been killed.
In that living room, number 2, is where I saw a young lady sitting on the couch, and later noticed that it seemed that she was on her phone. And kind of walked in, I go, "Is anybody hurt?" And she just kind of points to behind her. And that's when I saw a foot of a young child.
Were you physically in the room when the doctors were telling Ms. Howington about her daughter's condition?
Yes, ma'am. It wasn't like, I would say, typical. A lot of times you tell a person that their child has died and they lose it. It wasn't one of those.
At the end of the trial, the jury deliberated for only 2 hours before 41-year-old Robin Howington was found guilty. However, rather than being convicted on her original charge of felony murder, she was instead found guilty of reckless homicide. She was also convicted on 2 counts of aggravated child neglect, as well as making a false report, tampering with evidence, and attempting to tamper with evidence. She was later sentenced to 22 years in prison. Then, some even more shocking information came to light when Destiny's biological father, Antoine, made a victim impact statement. According to him, his little girl was the best daughter and a definite daddy's girl. He also said that her mother, Robin, was very jealous of the relationship that they had. She could not stand how close they were. Then come to find out, the last time that Antoine had seen his daughter Destiny was 2 nights prior to her murder. He had picked her up from school, then brought her over to Robin's house so she could spend a few nights there. That's when the couple had gotten into an argument, and Robin pointed the gun at him, threatening to pull the trigger. But as I had said, he was able to take it from her, dismantle it, and toss it. Then, on the day that Destiny had been killed, he was able to speak to his daughter on the phone, but only briefly. Because then Robin had snatched the phone away and began talking to Antoine as if nothing had happened 2 days prior. This caused him to call her crazy and hang up the phone. Little did he know, it would be the last time he would ever speak to his daughter. Antoine additionally stated that Robin had stalked him for years because he did not want to be in a relationship with her, and she could not handle him being with anyone else. He claimed that she had previously broken into his house, stolen valuables, and made false police reports against him, including one time where she had told authorities that he had kidnapped Destiny. According to Antoine, Robin had previously threatened to blow his mother's brains out, and she told him that she knew a person who was okay with killing a child. He claimed that the mother had used Destiny to get at him any way she could. Sometimes she would go weeks without letting him see his daughter, and the little girl would often cry when she had to go back to her mother's house. Then come to find out, back in October of 2017, Robin had actually lost custody of Destiny and her younger brother. When this happened, Robin's own mother gained full custody of the children, unbeknownst to their father. He didn't find out until March of 2019, when he began to try to seek custody of his daughter. According to documents that Antoine obtained at the time, the reason why the children had been taken away from Robin was due to her drug issues. Reportedly, she kept failing drug tests at the time that she was pregnant with her youngest child. So the court had awarded the grandmother custody and never informed Antoine about it. At the time of the 5-year-old's death, the grandmother still had custody, and she was supposed to be supervising her and her little brother at all times. They were not supposed to be in the sole care of their mother, Robin, for any reason. So it seems highly likely, given Antoine's statements, that Robin killed her daughter out of jealousy. She probably also realized that Antoine now had proof of how unstable she was, since she had pulled a gun on him and threatened to shoot him just a few days earlier. That could have meant that Destiny and her younger brother would be taken away from Robin. So like many other mothers' mentalities that we've seen before, I'm guessing it was if I can't have her, no one will. Sickening. A funeral was held for 5-year-old Destiny Oliver on Thursday, September 19th, 2019, at Barry Lyndhurst Funeral Home in Knoxville, Tennessee. The little girl was later buried at Mountain View Cemetery in Bristol, Virginia. Well, thank you for listening to Destiny's story today. This case is just crazy. Between how many times Robin changed her story, the fact that she didn't even have custody of Destiny and her younger brother, and then how she blamed the 2-year-old for the entire thing. It's so sad and frustrating at the same time that more wasn't done to ensure that Destiny and her brother were being cared for by a responsible adult. What do you think about this case? Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon, so check it out on patreon.com/awickedworld, or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims are never forgotten, and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a story you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email to awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.